Good morning. Thank you for tuning in to Local News Live here on AOC Community Media. We're airing this program every weekday at 9 a.m. on AOC Channel 1, which is Cox 15, LUS 3, as well as aocinc.org/watch. You can also take us along on Cypress Street Radio in your car or on your phone. Check us out, aocinc.org/CS Radio. And we're also broadcasting live on our YouTube channel. You can find us at AOC Community Media. Each weekday, we read articles from the Acadiana Advocate, local and state news, with the help of some wonderful volunteers. If you would like to be a part of the program, we would love to have you. Currently, our volunteers are reading from their homes. All you need is a computer and internet connection and be able to give up an hour of your time, at least once a month or so. So we would love to have you join us. Just email info@aocinc.org. We'll have some public service announcements coming up shortly, as well as some fun stuff like Today in History and the Zodiac. But first, let's get started with the news. Hurricane Zeta hits. Edwards' storm's pace works in state's favor. This is an article by Wilson Tell, Chad Calder, and Emily Disher. Hurricane Zeta strengthened to a strong Category 2 storm and made landfall Wednesday near the Lafourche-Terrebonne Parish line at about 4 p.m. The National Weather Service said Zeta came ashore near Cocodrie with sustained winds of 110 miles per hour. Zeta also reached Category 3 strength as wind speed closed in on the 111 mile per hour minimum for a major storm, according to the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale. Governor John Bel Edwards warned Wednesday that Zeta would be a wind event, including gusts of up to 100 miles per hour in the New Orleans area. Zeta is literally on our doorstep, Edwards said at a 1 p.m. briefing. The weather is degrading quickly as we speak. It is going to be a rough evening for Louisiana, especially in the southeast region. Senior hurricane specialist Richard Pash in a 4 p.m. Wednesday forecast discussion message that it's possible that the storm's interaction with an upper-level trough of low pressure several hundred miles northwest of Zeta was partly responsible for its increase in intensity. Somewhat surprisingly, Zeta has rapidly intensified this afternoon, Pash said, although the hurricane has been moving over marginally warm sea surface temperatures and relatively low heat content waters. It has intensified from 80 knots to 95 knots in about 6 hours. National Weather Service meteorologist Lauren Nash said Zeta would have a little bit of everything, including storm surge on the coast, high winds, up to 4 inches of rain, and possible tornadoes. She said the worst of the hurricane would be wind. Its quick pace meant rain likely wouldn't stick around long enough to cause widespread flooding. The storm was expected to be over Birmingham, Alabama by sunrise, then travel northeast Thursday through Georgia, North Carolina, and be in the middle of Virginia with 45-mile-per-hour winds by Thursday night. The governor said power outages could be extensive, especially for those on the east side of the storm. He said about 5,700 linemen were standing by to repair utility lines, and more can be brought if needed, including some from Texas helping with an ice storm. Mandatory evacuations were in effect for parts of Jefferson, Lafourche, and Terrebonne parishes. Voluntary evacuations were in effect for sections of Orleans and Plaquemines parishes. The governor also said he believed the New Orleans area was well prepared for the latest weather event. I am thankful that this is not southwest Louisiana, Edwards said early Wednesday during an appearance on the Weather Channel. The Lake Charles area was battered by Category 4 Hurricane Laura on August 27th and Category 2 Hurricane Delta 6 weeks later. President Donald Trump on Tuesday evening approved the state's request for federal assistance to help cope with Zeta. The assistance will be critical in responding to this hurricane, assisting local governments, and beginning our long-term recovery efforts. Louisiana has faced an incredibly active hurricane season this year, and we've been working in partnership with the federal government and local officials since March on the response to the pandemic, in addition to 2 major hurricanes in southwest Louisiana. State offices in 13 parishes will be closed today because of the storm, including Assumption, Jefferson, Lafourche, Orleans, Plaquemines, St. Bernard, St. Charles, St. James, St. John the Baptist, St. Tammany, Tangipahoa, Terrebonne, and Washington parishes. And in local news, Lafayette Parish early voting up by 245%, an article by Claire Taylor and Sam Carlin. Nearly 1 million of Louisiana's 3 million registered voters cast early ballots in the presidential election as the extended early voting period came to an end Tuesday night. That number so far has shattered records for early and mail-in voting, with the total votes cast already nearing half of the ballots cast in the 2016 election. Between the 10-day early voting period that ended Tuesday and mail-in ballots, which are accepted through Monday, Louisiana has tallied more than 964,000 votes, an 81% increase from the early vote in the 2016 presidential election. Thousands more mail-in ballots are expected to trickle in between now and November 2nd, the day before Election Day. The 964,181 who have voted represents 31.7% of registered voters. A pandemic or 2 hurricanes did not prevent nearly 1 million Louisianans from exercising their right to vote during early voting, Secretary of State Kyle Ardoin said in a statement. Louisiana voters are energized and eager to make their voices heard in critical elections from the presidency down to local races. It is my strong desire to see 2020 set the record for Louisiana's highest turnout. 26% of early votes in the state were cast in person and 5% by mail. 69% of the eligible voters in Louisiana have not yet voted. The early voting period was extended from 7 to 10 days this year because of the pandemic, and mail-in ballots surged in popularity, especially among those 65 and older, who are always allowed to vote by mail. The early votes will be counted on Election Day. The record-setting early vote has also tilted more toward Democrats than it did in 2016. According to an analysis by John Couvillon, a pollster who tracks early voting statistics, the racial composition leaned more toward black voters in 2020, with 65% of the votes coming from white voters and 30% coming from black voters. That's compared with a 70% to 27% split in 2016. The partisan split this year was 44% Democratic and 37% Republican, compared with a 44% to 39% split in 2016. While Louisiana is a reliably Republican state, registered Democrats outnumber Republicans by about 244,000. It was a perfect storm of events, Couvillon said. You also had a lot more people wanting to vote by mail than have ever done so before. In all, Couvillon expects turnout in the 2020 presidential election to top 2.2 million, up from about 2 million in 2016. Atop the ticket is the presidential contest between President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden, and Louisiana is expected to cast its electoral votes for Trump. Trump carried Louisiana in 2016 by 20 points against Hillary Clinton. In addition, all of Louisiana's congressmen, as well as U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy, are up for a re-election this year. Cassidy's main Democratic challenger is Adrian Perkins, the mayor of Shreveport, who has amassed most of the state party's support. But Cassidy, with a funding advantage, started advertising on television in September, almost a full month before Perkins. Perkins launched his first spot October 7th, 9 days before early voting began. Cassidy is favored in the race. If he tops 50% in the November 3rd election, he wins outright. If he falls short, the top 2 vote-getters advance to a December runoff election. Voters are also deciding on 7 constitutional amendments and a sports betting proposition. In Lafayette Parish, 30% of registered voters, 47,799 people, cast early ballots as of Tuesday evening. Elsewhere in Acadiana, at least 30% of registered voters in Iberia, Jeff Davis, St. Martin, and St. Mary parishes voted early. Between 22 and 27% of registered voters in Acadia, Evangeline, St. Landry, and Vermilion parishes voted early. Early voting in Lafayette Parish was up 252% compared with early voting turnout for the 2016 presidential election, when 18,913 people voted, according to the Secretary of State's office. In-person voting in Lafayette Parish was up 245% compared with 2016. This year, 40,318 people voted early in person compared with 16,487 in 2016. Voters registered Republican edged out Democrats in early voting in Lafayette Parish. 42%, or 20,128 of early voters are Republicans, compared with 18,043, or 38%, who are Democrats, and 9,628, or 20%, registered as other party affiliations. 35% of voters registered as Democrats voted early, compared with 32% of registered Republicans and 22% of those registered as other parties. In Acadia Parish, 9,410 of the parish's 40,004 registered voters cast early ballots, 8,108 of them in person, and that's 23.5% of registered voters voting early, 20% of them in person. The breakdown by party shows 3,314 Democrats, 4,625 Republicans, and 1,417 other party voters cast ballots already. St. Landry Parish had the lowest early voting turnout in Acadiana with 22%, or 13,227 of its 59,995 registered voters participating in early voting, 18% of them in person. St. Martin Parish, meanwhile, had the highest percentage of its registered voters casting early ballots with 36%, or 13,462 of the 37,569 registered voters participating, in 32% voted in person. Only 27% of Vermilion Parish voters cast early ballots as of Tuesday evening, including 3,379 in person. Let's see, we've got more local news on the way. We'll follow up with a story about Lafayette Parish schools moving to phase 3. First, I'm just going to grab a quick drink of water. Okay, thank you. Lafayette Parish schools to move to phase 3, daily in-person classes to be phased in starting on November 9th. This is a staff report. The Lafayette Parish Public School System on Wednesday announced it would begin transitioning to phase 3 of its reopening plan, which includes daily in-person classes for all grades. Students in 6th through 12th grade will return to full-time attendance on a staggered timeline over the next 2 months. Although LPSS remains in phase 2, we will begin a mindful and strategic approach to transition to phase 3. Superintendent Irma Trosclair said in a statement, "This decision was not made lightly. We will continue to closely monitor the situation and, if needed, make changes when and where necessary to ensure the health and safety of our students and staff. Please be aware this transition timeline is subject to change. Students will return to campus in groupings rather than all at once to allow school staff to better manage the influx of students and make necessary adjustments to protocols and procedures on campus," the statement said. Schools will continue all current mitigation efforts, including wearing face masks, practicing social distancing, heightened hand hygiene, increasing cleaning and disinfection, and keeping children home when they are sick, according to the statement. The school district will continue to closely monitor COVID-19 levels in the community, according to the statement, and if circumstances change and it's deemed necessary, the district may return to an earlier phase of blended learning. Middle and high school students will begin returning to campuses on a staggered schedule beginning November 9th, the beginning of the second 9-week grading period. Bell schedules and arrival and dismissal times will remain the same. Pre-kindergarten through 5th grade will continue to attend in person as before. Students attending Lafayette Online Academy have been contacted regarding the option to return to classroom instruction during this phase change. In other local news, employees and Vermilionville audit retaliation for race statement. This is an article by Claire Taylor. The Bayou Vermilion District Board voted Tuesday to authorize a second audit without knowing the cost from the same Metairie firm that conducted the controversial Lafayette Utilities System forensic audit. The audit was largely pushed by newly appointed board members who replaced several who resigned in July after objecting to a move by the Vermilionville board and staff to release a statement condemning systemic racism and social inequities following the police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis in May. The statement, staff said at the time, was meant to be a local history museum's effort to affirm its role as cultural ambassador and connect to a rising national movement for racial justice, the Current reported. Other public institutions, including Louisiana Tech University, the LSU Sociology Department, and the Hilliard Art Museum in Lafayette, had already issued statements calling for racial justice and unity in the aftermath of Floyd's death. However, the three resigning commissioners, Calvin Leger, Ray Landry, and Benjamin Richard, objected to what they said was a political statement and expressed concern that there would be public backlash for the statement. On Tuesday, Vermilionville employees and others accused the board of using the audit as retaliation against the museum for the George Floyd statement and of being part of the anti-tax group Citizens for a New Louisiana. The Bayou Vermilion District Board is made up of 9 volunteers who receive a formal appointment by the Lafayette Parish Mayor-President, the City Council, the Parish Council, or other Lafayette Parish mayors. Finance Committee Chairman David Eaton, appointed in July by Mayor-President Josh Guillory, requested the special meeting Tuesday specifically to call for a vote to hire Carr, Riggs, and Ingram CPAs to conduct a second audit of BVD and its affiliate Vermilionville, a living history museum. 3 board members definitely have an agenda here, employee Jake Snyder said during the meeting. The Metairie auditing firm the new board members want to hire is supported by a group that wants to burrow in and burn it down from the inside out, stripping funding from Vermilionville and risking people's jobs because they don't say what you want them to say, because we did something early in the year you don't agree with. The new commissioners, Eaton said, want to start with a clean slate. We want to make sure we understand all the finances and everything is in order. An independent audit, he said, will show them where all the money is going because the current audit doesn't do so to the board's satisfaction. The BVD, funded with a parish-wide property tax, has a 2-part mission, environmental and cultural. On the environmental side, it cleans debris from the river, monitors water quality and height, and educates students about the importance of the watershed. On the cultural side, it created the Vermilionville Living History Museum and Folklife Park as a way to preserve and represent the Acadian, Creole, and Native American cultures. It hosts a variety of events and attracts about 50,000 visitors annually, according to the BVD website. The district pays more than $23,000 a year to Wright, Moore, DeHart, Dupuy, and Hutchinson CPAs of Lafayette for an annual independent audit. The audit for January 1st through December 31st, 2019 was presented to the board in September. It includes 9 pages outlining the various areas of financial operation tested for the audit. Eaton said he has not contacted the Metairie firm about another audit and doesn't know how much it will cost, but he received positive reviews of its work by other governmental bodies. He and other board members want the audit conducted before the budget process begins in December, which is the end of the BVD's fiscal year. Colder, Slavin and Company CPAs is paid by the BVD to serve as its internal controller, balance bank statements, and prepare monthly financial statements, said Christy Dunn of Wright, Moore, DeHart, Dupuy, and Hutchinson. Colder, Slavin and Company, she said, is not independent because it makes management decisions. Her firm, she said, reviews the Colder, Slavin and Company financial documents as part of its audit process. Dunn said her firm conducts compliance checks in accordance with standards and is independent. The new board members questioned Dunn about using financial documents provided by Vermilionville and Colder, Slavin and Company for the audit. We're attempting to see from a different angle and perspective where we are financially, board member Mark Wiltz, appointed by the City Council effective October 1st, said. Maybe another firm can determine where we're lacking. Board President Thomas Michaud said it's premature to order a second audit. We can do it later if things still don't add up, Michaud said. I'm not saying the numbers won't add up, Eaton replied. You told me that on the phone the other day, Michaud said. When a board member suggested more money is spent on Vermilionville than on the BVD and Bayou cleanup operations, the primary mission of BVD, CEO David Sherami invited board members to sit with him to discuss how things operate. Michael Martin, president of the Vermilionville Foundation, said the board seems to have a problem with the CPA firm, not the audit. As a taxpayer, he said, the idea of committing to something that you do not know the cost of is insulting to me. Michaud and Don McConnell voted against authorizing a second audit. Voting to conduct a second audit were board members Eaton Wiltz, Calvin Leger, Holden Hoggett, and Jason Sullivan. The board's regular meeting is Wednesday. Lafayette NAACP continues calls for change. Officials seek police accountability and transparency. This is an article by Katie Gagliano. The Lafayette NAACP reiterated demands for transparency, accountability, and community oversight in local policing Wednesday, while standing alongside the families of two black men, one who was injured and one who was killed during alterations with area law enforcement. Local NAACP leaders stood alongside the families of 32-year-old Nathaniel McCoy, who died in June 2018, days after Carencro Police Department officers shocked him with a stun gun, and Curtis Francis, a 28-year-old who was paralyzed after Lafayette police officers shot him during an arrest in July, and reiterated demands for police progress. Marja Broussard, Lafayette NAACP president, said recent incremental progress by the Lafayette Police Department, specifically its revision of the department's use of force policy, has been encouraging, but more is needed to restore trust and integrity. Community leaders still want to see the installation of an independent community oversight board for local law enforcement, the release of video evidence in incidents in which police use force, and the adoption of policies outlined in the President's Task Force on 21st Century Policing, drafted under President Barack Obama, she said. In the meantime, they're focused on elevating the voices of families affected by police brutality and use of force, Broussard said. Beginning in November, a support group for families will meet at Amani Temple No. 49 the second Monday of every month at 7 p.m. The NAACP joins these families in their cries for justice. Justice comes in many ways. Closure is justice. Responsibility is justice. Reform is justice. Apology is justice. Peace is justice, Broussard said. The families of McCoy and Francis raised similar issues: little communication with law enforcement and the district attorney's office about their loved ones' cases, lack of evidence made available to families while investigators say the cases are in process, and little sense of accountability to families in the aftermath. Charmaine Mallet, the mother of McCoy's daughter, Brianna McCoy, and Caitlin Anderson, mother of McCoy's son, Nathaniel McCoy Jr., and jointly suing the involved police officers, Carencro Police Chief David Anderson and the city, in federal court for damages and alleging Nathaniel McCoy's civil rights were violated in the incident that preceded his death. McCoy died June 17, 2018, following several days on life support after Carencro police officers shocked him with a stun gun. Court documents filed on behalf of law enforcement and the city say officers responded to Gilbo Street to calls of an incoherent, naked man knocking over trash cans and ripping up mailboxes. The officers claim that McCoy fought them when they attempted to handcuff him and that their use of stun guns fell within policy. The court documents say McCoy was shocked 10 times in 2 minutes and 40 seconds as officers attempted to subdue him. Lab reports commissioned during a Louisiana State Police investigation reported McCoy was on methamphetamines and PCP at the time of the arrest. McCoy's mother, Sandra McCoy Como, said her son was having an issue that night, but it wasn't grounds for officers to use the level of force they did or to treat him with disregard in the aftermath when they left him lying on the ground handcuffed without prompt medical assistance. In the lawsuit, officers claim they repeatedly checked McCoy's pulse and breathing before an ambulance arrived. Como's statement echoes arguments made on behalf of Mallet and Anderson in the lawsuit. Como said details of McCoy's death were brought before a grand jury and dismissed in 2019, but she wasn't notified until after the fact. The grieving mother said she's become more vocal about his death in recent months because she's unsatisfied with the level of transparency around the investigation into his death and wants the incident to be reconsidered. He's not here to fight for himself, so I will speak for him and fight for him. My son, Nathaniel McCoy's life matters, Como said. Few details are available about Francis's shooting. Louisiana State Police are investigating the shooting, and troopers said in a statement that Francis was pulled over for a traffic stop about 5:30 p.m. July 15th and fled on foot. Officers pursued him near the area of St. Bernadette Drive, where troopers say an altercation took place between officers and Francis before the officers shot him. On July 27th, Francis was released from an area hospital and taken into custody. Court records show he was ultimately charged with 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder, 2 counts of assault by drive-by shooting, a count of attempted second-degree murder, aggravated assault on a police officer, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Francis is accused in July 6th and July 13th drive-by shooting incidents. Jessica Francis, Curtis Francis's mother, said officials have been opaque about the situation surrounding her son. She said there are conflicting details about her son's arrest, with her son maintaining he was surrendering at the time officers shot him. She said the officers also did not promptly call for medical help, and a family member present called for an ambulance after he was shot. Jessica Francis also said her son suffered severe burns on his leg from being left on the hot cement for an extended period. He's still receiving treatment for those wounds, family said. Curtis Francis is detained at Elaine Hunt Correctional Center in St. Gabriel, and family members weren't informed he was being moved from the hospital to an out-of-town detention facility until the move was complete, Jessica Francis said. She had to make multiple calls, including to Acadian ambulance, to determine where her son was transported, she said. Jessica Francis said 2 bullets remain inside her son's body, and he is largely confined to his bed. With Curtis Francis out of town and out of reach, besides phone calls, it's difficult to ensure he's receiving the care and therapy he needs, the family said. He's not an animal. I want my child to come home. I want justice, and I want the truth about why the police shot my child, Jessica Francis said. Another story from Lafayette this morning, nothing but love and kindness. Crash changes everything for single mom seeking fresh start. This is an article by Megan Wyatt. Carrie Cormier Kahn left Lake Charles on Tuesday morning in a rental car with her newborn baby, 6-year-old, and everything they owned. The single mom was heading to Pensacola, Florida in search of a fresh start after losing her casino job at the start of the pandemic and her home during Hurricane Laura. Along the way, she planned to stop by her therapist's office in Lafayette for a refill of anxiety medicine, something she'd never been on until recently because of the deluge of stress 2020 has brought. Kahn remembers driving on West University Avenue toward the oil center and noticing she was less than a mile away from the office. A moment later came the screeching of tires and sharp twisting of metal. Her rental car hit a sport utility vehicle and a traffic light at the intersection of Lee Avenue. She immediately jumped out of the car to check on Nova, her 3-week-old girl, and Lizzie, her older daughter. Everything just happened so fast, Kahn said. I didn't know if the car would catch on fire or what, so I just got them out. And then I didn't know how these other people were going to react who were in the wreck. I thought they'd be upset, angry that I ruined their day or their lunch or whatever it may be, but no, they've shown me nothing but love and kindness. Hannah Mason, a Lafayette artist and mom of 3, was the woman in the SUV. A traffic pole landed on her vehicle, making it impossible for Mason to exit the vehicle without assistance after the crash. Initially, Mason was upset about the state of her vehicle, but as she watched Kahn dive into the back seat of the rental car to scoop up a newborn baby, Mason's perspective changed. She could barely talk, Mason said. She was holding this teeny tiny baby and had a 6-year-old at her waist. It made me start crying immediately. She had lost her place to live because of the hurricane. Now she has lost her car. She was just distraught. I feel like a lot of us have had a bad year, but she's had the worst year. Minutes after the crash, Mason had her husband, best friend, and insurance agent, who happens to be her brother-in-law, at her side. Kahn was alone with her children in a wrecked car full of clothing, diapers, and formula. Everything she owned was in the car, and she was trying not to be a bother, Mason said. My whole world was at my fingertips, and here's this mom just doing her very best to get out of town and start over with this 3-week-old baby and a 6-year-old who thinks she hung the moon. That's when Mason, who also serves on the Lafayette Parish School Board, decided to do what she could to help the Lake Charles mom. It started by making sure Con got to her appointment. Mason's crew took Con to the oil center office and looked after her children. She ensured Con had somewhere to stay the night. Hannah's been a saint, Con said. Honestly, she and her husband just wanted to make sure me and my children were okay. All they wanted to do was help. Mason started a GoFundMe page Tuesday evening for Con in an effort to ease some of her financial burdens. Almost $4,000 has been raised for the family in 24 hours. It's a humbling experience, Con said. I'm very grateful, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I needed the help and stability for my children. The past few weeks have been a whirlwind for Con, who has moved multiple times with her newborn to stay with friends and family in the Lake Charles area. Much of the time, she was feeding and bathing baby Nova without electricity. A move to Florida wasn't ideal, but when a friend in Pensacola offered her a place to stay until she could get back on her feet, it seemed like the only stable option. Now the unexpected car crash has Con questioning the move altogether. She left Wednesday for Florida with her friend's mother, but she said she's just planning to stay for a week to see if it will be a good fit long term. A move to Lafayette would put her much closer to those she left behind in her hometown. Honestly, I'm not ready to leave Lake Charles, Con said, and I'm wondering if Lafayette might be the better option. It's been scary trying to get somewhere without many stepping stones, but meeting Hannah has been a blessing, and I know it was nothing but God. We're about halfway through our program this morning. It's 9:31. Normally we take a break here and we do some fun stuff. How about taking a look at today in history? Not always fun. Sometimes the more dire things are the things that are more heavily remembered. But let's take a look at Thursday, October the 29th, the 303rd day of 2020. There are 63 days left in the year. Today's highlight in history: on October 29th, 1929, Black Tuesday descended upon the New York Stock Exchange. Prices collapsed amid panic selling, and thousands of investors were wiped out as America's Great Depression began. On this date, in 1940, a blindfolded Secretary of War, Henry L. Stimson, drew the first number 158 from a glass bowl in America's first peacetime military draft. In 1960, a chartered plane carrying the California Polytechnic State University football team crashed on takeoff from Toledo, Ohio, killing 22 of the 48 people on board. In 1987, following the confirmation defeat of Robert H. Bork to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court, President Ronald Reagan announced his choice of Douglas H. Ginsburg, a nomination that fell apart over revelations of Ginsburg's previous marijuana use. In 1994, gunman Francisco Martin Duran fired more than 24 shots from a semi-automatic rifle at the White House. Duran was later convicted of trying to assassinate President Bill Clinton and was sentenced to 40 years in prison. In 2012, Superstorm Sandy slammed ashore in New Jersey and slowly marched inland, devastating coastal communities and causing widespread power outages. The storm and its aftermath were blamed for at least 182 deaths. In 2017, all but 10 members of the Houston Texans took a knee during the national anthem, reacting to a remark from team owner Bob McNair to other NFL owners that we can't have the inmates running the prison. In 2018, a new generation Boeing jet operated by the Indonesian budget airline Lion Air crashed in the Java Sea minutes after takeoff from Jakarta, killing all 189 people on board. It was the first of 2 deadly crashes involving the 737 MAX, causing the plane to be grounded around the world as Boeing worked on software changes to a flight control system. 10 years ago today, authorities on 3 continents said they had thwarted multiple terrorist attacks aimed at the United States, seizing 2 explosive packages addressed to Chicago area synagogues and packed aboard cargo jets from Yemen. 5 years ago, Paul Ryan was elected the 54th Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. Owen Labrie, a graduate of the exclusive St. Paul's School in Concord, New Hampshire, was sentenced to a year in jail for sexually assaulting a 15-year-old freshman girl as part of a competition among upperclassmen to rack up sexual conquests. 1 year ago today, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, an Army officer serving with President Donald Trump's National Security Council, defied White House orders and testified to impeachment investigators that he had twice raised concerns over the administration's push to have Ukraine investigate Democrats and Joe Biden. Following the Senate's acquittal vote, Vindman was reassigned from the NSC. His twin brother, an NSC lawyer, was pushed out with him. All right, something a little more fun than all the bad news from past history. Today's birthdays. Bluegrass singer, musician Sonny Osborne of the Osborne Brothers turns 83 today. Country singer Lee Clayton is 78. Rock musician Denny Lane turns 76 today. Actor Richard Dreyfuss turns 73. Country musician Steve Kello of Wild Horses is 64. Actor Dan Castellaneta of TV's The Simpsons turns 63 today. Actor Finola Hughes turns 61. Singer Randy Jackson is 59. Rock musician Peter Timmons of Cowboy Junkies is 55 today. Actor Jolie Fisher turns 53. Rapper Paris turns 53 today as well, and also actor Rufus Sewell is 53. Actor Grayson McCouch is 52, and rock singer S.A. Martinez of 311 turns 51. How about a look at the zodiac? If you're a Scorpio, how you process and utilize information will affect how your day goes. When uncertainty sets in, ask questions and move on quickly. Don't waste precious time. Sagittarius, take the opportunity to make a change at home. Relax. Spend time with a loved one or develop an intriguing idea. Personal improvements will lift your spirits and encourage romance. Capricorn, avoid getting into a disagreement with someone who can influence the outcome of a project. Be sure to keep your distance when out and about. Focus on health and well-being. Aquarius, distance yourself from anyone who appears to be out of control or demanding. Focus on physical improvements, earning more money, and sticking to what works best for you. Pisces, a change you encounter will turn out better than anticipated. An innovative idea you present will be well received. Don't make promises until you are sure you can deliver. Aries, don't waste your time on people and things you cannot change. Choose positive outlets for your energy. Align yourself with people who share your beliefs. A partnership requires an adjustment. Taurus, stick to your plans and don't stop until you reach your destination. Take advantage of opportunities and stabilize your important relationships. Now's the time to take care of business. Gemini, distance yourself from drama and people who play mind games. Do your own thing. Trust in your skills and ability to get the job done. Beware of outsiders trying to muscle in. Cancer, don't take chances. Be cautious when dealing with sensitive issues. Someone will take advantage of you if you get into a dispute. Protect your assets. If you're a Leo, strive for perfection. Do your own thing and stay away from people making unrealistic promises. Use your intelligence to navigate your way to a safe and better future. Virgo, stop worrying about what others do or think and show strength and courage in the way you handle adversity. If you call the shots, success can be yours. Finally, Libra, refuse to let someone pressure you into something that benefits them more than you. An adjustment to how you present yourself to others will show off your unique style. Romance is on the rise. The horoscope, of course, is an entertainment feature, not based on scientific fact. Before we get back into the news this morning, first, funerals today in the Acadiana area. Dudley Ozan at Holy Ghost Catholic Church at 10 a.m. this morning. Joseph Benoit at Sunrise Chapel at Walter's Funeral Home, 2424 North University Avenue in Lafayette at 2 p.m. this afternoon. Kim DeReese at St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church at 1 p.m. and Jesse Richard Sr. at David Funeral Home, 316 Youngsville Highway at 11 a.m. Let's see where we left off this morning. Let's see. Okay, we've got the Crime Blotter Advocate Staff reports. Lafayette mother indicted in death of baby. A Lafayette Parish grand jury has indicted a local woman in connection with the death of her 5-month-old baby. Jeanette Monet Levy, 26, was indicted on 1 count of negligent homicide and 3 counts of child desertion. Levy was arrested earlier this month after her baby died at a hospital. Police alleged that on September 25, 2018, Levy left her 5-month-old twins, her 2-year-old, and her 4-year-old alone in their Abear Road home while she went to run errands. The 5-month-old was rushed to the hospital later that day and pronounced dead, police say. Teen indicted in slaying of transgender woman. The Lafayette Parish grand jury handed up 4 indictments in Lafayette shooting incidents Wednesday. Kenan Milstead, 16, was indicted on a charge of second-degree murder in the August 12th slaying of Kendarius Sam of Lafayette. According to Tori Cooper, Human Rights Campaign Director of Community Engagement for the Transgender Justice Initiative, Sam, 24, was a transgender woman. Sam was shot at an Evangeline Thruway hotel and died a day later at a Lafayette hospital. Keon Drayshawn Woods, 25, was indicted on a second-degree murder charge in connection with the June 19th slaying of Rico Thomas. Thomas was shot on Edison Street. Raheem Isidore, 18, was named in 2 indictments and accused of attempted second-degree murder in 2 separate incidents. The first indictment accuses him of the attempted murder of a man August 28th. The second accuses him of the attempted second-degree murder of another man September 9th, as well as aggravated criminal damage to property of the alleged victim's home. Man dies after injuries from crash. An Opelousas man has died after suffering injuries in a single-vehicle crash in early October. Matthew Washington, 67, died on October 15th after his 2014 GMC Sierra crashed about 8:45 p.m. October 9th into a tree that had fallen across LA 749 near Hanger Road. Louisiana State Police troopers were informed of Washington's death Wednesday. A statement from Louisiana State Police Troop I spokesperson, Trooper Thomas Gosson, said. Washington was taken to a hospital with moderate injuries in a private vehicle after the crash. He was wearing a seatbelt at the time of the crash, and impairment is unknown. The crash remains under investigation, Gosson said. All right, it's 9:42. We've got state news on the way, but first, let's take a look at our public service announcements. Festival of Words virtual coming up November 6th and 7th. The Festival of Words celebrates another year with 3 amazing authors and 2 days of memorable events. The festival will take place Friday and Saturday, November 6th and 7th, virtually. This year, festival events include creative writing workshops for students and the community, a community stage for open mic, and drive-by poetry in which youth give dramatic presentations of festival authors' writings. The Friday night event features a poetry presentation by John Warner Smith and Erica Meitner, and Robin Ha reads from her work graphic memoir, Almost American Girl. On Saturday, drive-by poetry performers from the Magnet Academy of Cultural Arts will recite works by the featured authors. There will be an open mic and multiple creative writing workshops which are open to the public. For more information, you can check out festivalofwords.org. That's festivalofwords.org. If you've got mosquito problems, requests for mosquito control is now available through Lafayette 311. Lafayette Consolidated Government is increasing mosquito abatement efforts in the parish. An increase in mosquito activity is common following storm events. Citizens noticing an influx of mosquitoes in their area can now use the Lafayette 311 portal to request service. All submitted requests are routed directly to Mosquito Control Services, the mosquito control contractor for the parish. And finally, Acadiana Symphony Orchestra takes the virtual stage. The Acadiana Symphony Orchestra, or ASO, announces that they are shifting the fall portion of the ASO 36 revival season, going now through December, to a virtual live stream platform. ASO believes that this is the unquestionable solution to keeping our community safe while still providing opportunities for local musicians to share their passion and earn income despite mandated restrictions and uncertain venue viability. Acadiana Symphony Orchestra has and will always remain committed to providing outstanding performances to Acadiana and fueling the cultural economy of our region. Symphonies, businesses, and organizations across the country are having to rethink, retool, and reinvent. We are no different. So thank you for your grace and your patience as we map out the next few months. We are working tirelessly behind the scenes to solidify plans for these virtual concerts, and it is our commitment to you that we will clearly and concisely communicate ASO 36 revival season details in the coming weeks. At a minimum, we are certain that you will receive the highest quality live streaming performance, which you can enjoy from virtually anywhere. Here's the lineup still to come. Transform, coming up Friday, November 13th. It'll be a virtual performance. Thursday, December 17th, Believe, also a virtual performance. On Friday, February the 12th, 2021, Adore, scheduled for the ACA. Empower for Friday, April 16th next year at St. John's Cathedral, and Revive, Thursday, May 13th, 2021 at St. Mary's Church. Okay, let's get back into the news this morning. Study finds quarantine instilling bad habits. This is an article by Emily Woodruff. Over the past 7 months, the coronavirus has upended normal life, prompting widespread shifts in how people spend their days. What was hard to comprehend in March, virtual schooling, isolation, and interactions through video conference, plexiglass, and masks, is now the norm. But according to a study this month from Pennington Biomedical Research Center in Baton Rouge, some of these disruptions have turned into habits that may have long-lasting impacts on health. A survey of about 8,000 people, half from Louisiana, found that people cooked at home more during the pandemic, which increased healthy eating. But they also snacked more, exercised less, went to bed later, slept poorly, and experienced nearly double the anxiety levels compared with before the pandemic. Respondents said they ate more sweets, drank more sugary drinks, and spent more time watching TV, scrolling on their smartphones, and doing other sedentary activities. 20% of people said they had anxiety that affected work, daily life, and the ability to get along with people. Over 40% said they slept worse compared with before the pandemic. On average, people pushed back bedtimes by roughly an hour. Almost everyone was concerned for their own health or a family member. Survey results published in the peer-reviewed journal Obesity found that obese individuals were particularly at risk. They were most likely to suffer mental health decline and more likely to gain weight. 1/3 of obese people gained weight during April, compared with 20% of people who were normal weight or overweight. When the stay-at-home order was put into effect, we knew it would influence behaviors, said Emily Flanagan, lead author of the study and a postdoctoral researcher in Pennington's Reproductive Endocrinology and Women's Health Laboratory. But as the temporary stay-at-home orders have stretched from weeks into months, the habits people form in quarantine may have long-lasting effects. Habits typically take 2 to 3 months of daily repetition to become automatic, said Wendy Wood, Provost Professor of Psychology and Business at the University of Southern California and author of Good Habits, Bad Habits, The Science of Making Positive Changes That Stick. Once developed, habits are difficult to change if the environment remains the same. People think, well, I can do this for a while and just muddle through, and later on, I'll change my mind and decide to live more healthfully, said Wood. Habits are like muscle memory, a reflex that happens in a given context, Wood said. An example is someone snacking more often while at home because the kitchen is where they've set up their new home office. People think, well, I can do this for a while and just muddle through, and later on, I'll change my mind and decide to live more healthfully. Doesn't work that way. Instead, you're learning new habits about how to organize your life, and those new habits don't go away when you decide to do something else. And because public health experts have predicted that normal life will likely not return for quite some time, healthy habits will not bounce back as restrictions loosen. According to Flanagan and Wood, public policy and health professionals will need to respond by making it easy to be healthy in the new normal, making bike lanes safer, setting up open-air farmers markets, encouraging outdoor play for kids, connecting patients to healthcare providers through virtual appointments, and increasing screening for mental health issues. People fell into new habits created by this change in our lifestyles. Whatever those habits are, cities and municipalities will want to make it easier for people to actually start living healthier lifestyles with this pandemic, said Wood. Right, it's 9:49. We have time for maybe another story or two. I'm just going to grab a quick drink of water and let's see what we have left here this morning. All right. Louisiana expands nursing home virus reporting. Data could give a better picture of outbreaks in care facilities. An article by Youssef Radad. Instead of simply reporting how many coronavirus cases have been found in Louisiana nursing homes, the state also began reporting Wednesday the number of cases that actually originated at each facility. That's an additional statistic, health officials say, paints a more accurate picture of outbreaks in centers housing Louisianians who are more vulnerable to COVID-19, the illness caused by the virus. State health officials said this week that families with loved ones in nursing homes have been alarmed when a facility in which their loved one lives reports high numbers of coronavirus cases each week. But in some cases, the high number of cases is misleading because nursing homes set up isolation wards and took in patients from hospitals or other nursing homes. Dr. Joseph Cantor, Interim Assistant Secretary of Public Health at the Louisiana Department of Health, said the previous reporting system understandably raised alarms with people with relatives in nursing homes, but the data sometimes suggested lax infection control practices when a facility actually had been admitting and treating COVID-19 patients from other nursing homes, hospitals, or elsewhere. A lot of them have been good stewards, Cantor said. He added that nursing homes that have the means and capacity to care for sick residents from other facilities are vital in the state's fight against the virus. The care center in Baton Rouge, for example, lists 66 cases among residents, according to the 145-bed facility's latest report from the state, but fewer than half of those cases were contracted at the nursing home, according to the latest weekly report. At Booker T. Washington Skilled Nursing and Rehabilitation in Caddo Parish, which leads the state in most COVID-19 cases among residents at 219, about 55 were contracted at the nursing home. Nursing homes are required to report each week the number of cases to state and federal governments. The health department began listing cases in individual nursing homes in May after weeks of only listing the total number of coronavirus cases and deaths statewide. This has cast a light on the severity of Louisiana's outbreak, which has ravaged nursing homes and centers housing the elderly and infirm. Of the 5,676 deaths tied to the coronavirus in Louisiana, about 43% were residents of the state's more than 270 nursing homes, according to the latest state data available on Wednesday. Nursing homes have for months been a concern because residents are more susceptible. They often have more than one underlying health problem, such as diabetes, high blood pressure, and other ailments that make them vulnerable to the coronavirus. Long-term care centers and nursing homes are also more susceptible to outbreaks because residents often live in close quarters and have frequent interactions with staff. Although employees and visitors are screened for COVID-19 symptoms, health officials have expressed concerns that some may unknowingly spread the virus before developing symptoms, and some who are infected don't show symptoms at all. New coronavirus cases, both in nursing homes and across the state in general, have plateaued in recent weeks following a surge of infections this summer. That trend has also mirrored infections within care facilities in the state. Nursing homes across Louisiana reported 109 new infections and 46 deaths among residents this past week, as well as 103 infections among employees, according to an analysis of state figures. Nursing homes in the Acadiana region reported no new coronavirus cases among residents. Only one new case was reported in the New Orleans metro area. Care facilities in East Baton Rouge Parish saw 4 new cases this past week, while other parishes in the capital region logged a total of 13 infections. All right, that's about all the time we have for our news program this morning. Once again, this is Local News Live, a service of AOC Community Media led by volunteers. We would love to have you on our volunteer team. All you have to do is have an internet connection and be able to log into a Google Meet. We'll do the rest. If you'd like to help read for the vision impaired or those who have literacy issues or, just no access to the long form newspaper, we would love to have you volunteer with us. Contact us at info@aocinc.org. If you'd like to submit a PSA or a press release, you can send that to us there as well. That's info@aocinc.org. You can find out more information about all the things that AOC has to offer at aocinc.org. We do this program every weekday at 9 a.m. here on AOC Channel 1, which is Cox 15, LUS 3. You can also stream it on our website, of course, aocinc.org/watch, and bring us along on Cypress Street Radio. You can bring us in your car, on your phone. Go to aocinc.org/CS radio and stream it live on our YouTube channel. Be sure to check us out there. Look us up at AOC Community Media. You can see our live streams as well as repeats of some of the programs that community producers have produced and aired on our channels. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning. Have a great day.